morning. I'm recording this film right before Thanksgiving, and you'll see it next week. It may be a little early, but I've got a doozy of a wish list, and I'm already seeing the Christmas trees from Canada coming here every year right around Thanksgiving. So I guess it's not too early to put in my list. I got a few. One, I wish the media and all types of pronouncements about the Trump administration, I think they should halt. I don't want to hear what anyone has to say about what we may encounter. I think we ought to stop the fear-mongering about the next administration. I think we've got to silence all those who are the future picks from the cabinet from scaring people and threatening individuals. This is a time to feel that we are thankful and we are grateful. People chose, so far, with all the counting and recounting that's been taking place in Pennsylvania and now in North Carolina, it appears he won by 1.5% of the vote. The real problem was Democrats did not come out to vote. That's on them for not participating in democracy. It's what I've always said. We need a third party. And next week, the Brennan Law Center is going to debate whether or not we want a third-party system or a multi-party system, because I think that's where we're going. It's got to be. The two parties are on opposite ends of the spectrum, and the vast middle of us need to be heard. And from what I know, we are being heard. All over the country, folks are unionizing when they find that conditions are unbearable. That, to me, is a win-win for the unions. They got a long way to go, but we put unions in place, workers' rights will be achieved. Workers won't have to worry about lost pay, lost income. And perhaps, since Biden is still president until January 20th, let's hope that we can get a minimum wage passed for everyone. There shouldn't even be tipped employees. And not at $2.16 an hour. That's not right. As far as the Inflation Reduction Act, that hasn't even begun to take effect. Fairly shortly, there's been so much money dispensed to the states that Republican senators absolutely do not want to do away with the Inflation Reduction Act. It gives them a hell of a lot of money for carbon credits, for going into green energy, for infrastructure, for broadband, you name it, the money is there for us to move forward on green energy. And you better believe that a lot of our problems have to do with climate and what we've done to the climate. These are man-made problems. It was a great idea that we had the Industrial Revolution. We couldn't have existed without it. But now we need new innovation to bring us to the 22nd century. And I'm sure those ideas are out there because all over the world, folks are creating biofuels. They're looking at hydrogen. They're looking at fusion. They're doing vertical farming in the Netherlands. They're doing farming on islands that they're creating in the waterways, where they not only have the cows and they have the farms, and then as you go down levels, you're making cheese and milk and butter, and then you're selling it. So there's a lot of innovation out there. In the Caribbean, because they've got that dreadful Sargassum algae, and it's smelly and it's awful and it's deterring tourism, they're taking that algae and they're taking the waste from their distilleries and they're making biofuel. It evidently is a great way to combine noxious substances that produce gases anyway and create their own microbacterial infrastructure. And they're using it for biofuel. For $2,500 to convert old cars into using biofuel, they're now scaling up. So there's a lot of innovation out there. There's a lot of new ideas. And I wish the press would publish those ideas. Don't just tell us where people are getting ripped off by the water bottling plants. I agree with the folks in Spain. If you don't have water at your tap in places like Barcelona and Valencia, I don't want to see water bottling companies tapping into my aquifers and getting water when I can't. And the same thing goes here. We can't afford to be pushing out more petroleum and more petroleum products. Why do you think you don't have crops? A part of the problem is we're devastating our land. Some of it is parched with drought, and the rest of it is flooded where they can't produce crops either. The price of chocolate's going up. The price of coffee is going up. And where do we get our blueberries? So we get them from Peru. And now they want to become the asparagus capital. I say go. If you can produce it, it's better than destroying your land digging for cobalt or nickel or whatever. Let them be the breadbasket. And we get a hell of a lot of our produce. I think close to $1 trillion worth out of Mexico. We've got treaties, and we've got people who are coming into office who like trade. They are pro-stock market. And we've got a Congress with checks and balances. 220 Republicans in the House, 216 Democrats. That's checks and balances. And there are going to be a lot of senators that are tapped for the Trump administration. It takes on average about 6 months to replace them. So my feeling is we got the government we wanted. Let's see what happens. I don't see giving away our democratic rights. I don't see another form of government that's better than democracy. And Congress now has power. Use it. You are the checks and balances for the executive branch and the Supreme Court. Use it, and our country will continue to prosper. Because it is prospering now. And by the way, fentanyl deaths are down 14.5%. So a lot less drug abuse is happening in the country. Now, if we could only curb guns and their use by abusers of other civil rights, that would be a good thing. Nobody needs an AR-15 or large magazines, and I think every gun owner would agree. So Have a blessed holiday season as we're going from Thanksgiving into Christmas. Enjoy, and that's my wish list.